All right, everybody, welcome back to SKYWATCHERS Radio. Again, right here on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Now, without further delay or ado, we have on the line with us the one, the only, Timothy Green Beckley, Mr. UFO himself. Mr. UFO, welcome to SKYWATCHERS Radio. So happy to have you on, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be on here and to share the secrets of the universe with all your listeners out there.
Now, don't tease us, because we want you to teach us the secrets of the universe. If there's anybody in the world of ufology that can answer the questions that lead to the secrets of the universe, it is Timothy Green Beckley.
Well, I have been involved in, the UFO research. When I was 14 years old, I went out and I bought myself a Gestentner mimeograph machine. And I put out a newsletter. It was called the Interplanetary News Service Report. It started out, of course, in those days there was no quick copy services or anything like that.
No Staples, nothing like that right now.
No Kinko's. You had to print it and collate it and staple it and take it to the post
so much work.
Oh,
yeah,
boy. But it started out as a 10-page newsletter. Built itself up to over 1,500 subscribers. In fact, we had as many subscribers as APRO had members. Now, APRO was the Area Phenomena Research organization out of Tucson, and Jim and Cora Lorenzen organized that group and ran it. And they, unlike Nightcap, were interested in the humanoid and close encounter cases, where Major Kehoe's group was only interested pretty much in lights in the sky and objects, that follow the airliners and pilot sightings and things along that line.
That never happened.
Right.
We were a little bit more freewheeling than that, but a lot of the people that contributed to our publication later went on to become fairly well known in the field. In those days, there were about a dozen teenage UFO organizations. So guys like Gene Steinberg and Alan Greenfield and Rick Hilberg, who are still active in the field in one way or another, we all started pretty much together as teenagers. And anyway, I built my subscription up to about 1,500, and it became, instead of 10 pages, it was 40 pages. And like we said, in those days, you had to do all the work yourself. And boy, that was a lot of work. And my mother had vanquished me to the back porch, because it was a very messy job as well. I mean, it looked like a crime scene. You could see fingerprints everywhere.
All the cutting of like newspaper articles, I'm sure.
Oh, geez, yeah. But anyway, Jim Mosley, who was editor and publisher of Saucer News, now Jim passed away a couple of years ago now. He was the big mucky muck in the field as far as magazine publishing goes, and he had a magazine called Saucer News. So we made a deal. He took over my 1,500 subscribers, added it to his subscription base, and had probably a membership roll of about 12,000 people, which had to be the largest circulation as far as a magazine being sent to the mail had. And he hired me as managing editor of Saucer News, and I took the bus into New York, into Manhattan every day. And that began my career in publishing. And over the years, I have edited about 30 different magazines. I was a stringer for the Inquirer, the Globe, the Tatler, which is no longer in business. So my background has been, I don't claim to be a scientist. I graduated from high school, no big academic degree. I look at this more from the viewpoint of a journalist. At least that's what I kind of consider myself, a historian and journalist. I met over the years, just about everybody in the field. And my viewpoints have changed somewhat over the years.
Well, working for the Inquirer, first of all, I mean, they're a spotless reputation for honesty.
Well, but they did. Don't laugh, because in those days they were. In fact, every article that I ever did was fact-checked, and I had to provide them with like tapes, tapes of the interviews that I did with various. I did a lot of celebrity stuff, but I also did UFO. It was me and Bob Pratt that was doing most of the UFO material.
So did you know Batboy?
I was going to ask that. You stole my thunder.
that was the Weekly World. That was the Weekly World News.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but see, I watched Men in Black, and I was really impressed that they always checked the Inquirer and all those.
Yes.
But no,
the real UFO
the Inquirer was very legit as far as publishing the UFO material. Now, every once in a while, they got caught with their the pants down, I mean, but
right.
I'm sure that the New York Times and other magazines and newspapers got sued for, saying something that wasn't true. But every word that I wrote in the Inquirer, I mean, they did check it. They went back and they called the individuals that we interviewed and so forth. Now, most of the articles did not appear with my byline. And sometimes I would submit like a 7-page report or article, and it would appear as maybe 10 or 12 paragraphs in the newspaper. I remember a couple of times they sent me a check, and they paid fairly well. They would, I'd have to call them on the phone, and I'd say, "By the way, I just got a check for the article. Where is it in the newspaper?" And and so forth. But they did, they did pay. In fact, one time I did a headline story about a pilot, a military pilot, a helicopter pilot out of, I can't remember the town now, in California. I happened to call over there just when he was landing and got the guy on the phone, did an interview with him, and they used it as the headline, a story in the paper, and got a bonus of $1,500. Now, I hate to have a gripe, just like we were saying before. But in those days, we got paid for articles. See, and that enabled us, or at least it enabled me, to make long distance phone calls. There were no flat rates in those days. Travel around the country, interviewing people, and doing what I had to do as far as the research went. Well, today, you got to put your PayPal button down on the bottom of the page, and it's not quite the same ball game as it was.
For donations.
Grovel was the word.
It's amazing though how technology has changed every aspect of everything, Timothy.
Well, I am very I have my gripes against the internet. I mean, it has obviously it has its great benefit. We can communicate with us with each other in instant.
Well, it's a global connector. I mean, it connects the entire planet. I mean, I have friends from Europe, from Australia. I mean, it really does connect everybody.
The fact that it has put so many magazines and newspapers out of business just boggles the mind. I mean, is there any UFO magazine in this in the United States anymore? Printed magazine. In fact, the only printed magazine in the English language devoted to UFOs that I can think of, and I'm not including the 14 Times because that's all over the place, would be a magazine out of Australia called Australian Ufologist. That's the only magazine that I know printed physically in the English language anywhere that I know of.
Well, UFO magazine for a long time was printed, and it was a great magazine until recent events.
Of course, yeah.
Recent events have taken that magazine off course, and now Nancy and Bill are no longer running it. But that was a great publication. No, but you're right. But here's the thing with the internet: print media is a dinosaur, and it's on its way out. It's on its last leg.
Well, the internet
really is the way to go, and it is a shame. But
it's frankly a shame. And now let me even say this: you go, and I don't know how many sites are devoted to UFOs, right? Probably 20,000 sites or whatever it is, but it's pretty much all printing the same material. And you really can't research anything anymore. In the old days, we subscribed to a clipping service, right? And maybe some months we'd get 100 clippings, and some months we'd only get 20. But it had the names of the people who took the photographs or had the close encounters, so you could actually communicate with them. And you'd know in 5 minutes flat, were they making it up, or was it a legitimate claim? Today you can't find anybody.
No, that's not necessarily true, though, Timothy. Look at a lot of blogs, like in Open Minds, they have the person who put the article on there. You can actually click on the person's name and follow their other articles and send them emails.
Even there's a lot of recycled stuff out there also.
But there's a lot of stuff like on Huffington Post and different areas where you could actually contact the people who are putting the post on there and interact with them.
But how about YouTube? there's how many different videos up there, and there's no way of fact checking any of it.
Oh no, yeah, you can't. Well, that's one of the main dilemmas that we face in ufology, Timothy. And you know this. I mean, YouTube has been a great friend and a great hindrance in ufology with all the amount of hoaxers and fakers and, third phase of the moon type of people out there.
Third phase.
You know what I'm saying? The hoaxers that are putting stuff on the internet and on YouTube and really carving a niche for themselves by lying to people and stealing their money, basically, because people are paying them for videos, paying them for lectures, paying them for books, and they're just, they're hoaxing. The internet, not in general is to blame, but YouTube definitely is to blame for a lot of that stuff that's going on.
Well, how do I've heard Blake Cousins, being interviewed and all, and, like he says, he leaves it up to the people to decide what's legitimate.
See, my gripes with Blake Cousins, and here's the thing, I openly challenged Blake Cousins to be on this show and debate me, and he has not. He's not replied yet. I'm still waiting, Blake. Still waiting for you to come on the show. But here's the thing, and I'll give him his segment here to explain to me how he is not faking this stuff. He has been debunked many times. What they do, it is so easy to see what they're doing. Is they have a team of animators. They're producing a lot of this stuff themselves. They're taking stupid little stories that are completely fake and they're blowing it out of proportion. Why? Because they're trying to get a name out there. They're trying to become something. They're trying to be special. They're trying to be a big thing in ufology because it's a cash grab. It is an easy money making scheme. Make a big name for yourself. Sell a lot of videos, some T-shirts, movies, whatever. You're going to make some money, and that's what they're trying to do on Third Fix of the Moon.
I got stuff up on YouTube. You're not going to get rich.
No, not on you. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, though, Timothy. You ever heard of Jeremy Johns?
Not sure.
No, he has a movie review channel on YouTube. He's making about $10,000 a month on YouTube.
And how does he do that? By getting 1 million hits, or?
He gets several 100,000 hits per video, 1 million hits per video. No, he gets a lot of hits, and this is just a regular dude. He worked at a movie theater or something before. He decided to do a couple of videos reviewing movies, something funny, and it's a niche. It paid off, and boom, now he's a big thing. So you can make money on YouTube. Look, not everybody does it, but if you make a big enough noise, if you make a lot enough noise on YouTube, if you get a lot of people to follow your videos and subscribe to your page, guess what? You can monetize that, and you can make a lot of money. There are people making money on there.
We have a commercial page up there, but we haven't gotten anywhere near that.
Have you gotten 1 million hits yet?
No. We've got a couple that have got a couple of thousand hits or 2,500.
Yeah,
we
that's
got a really good. Whenever I travel somewhere, I throw my camera in my suitcase and a wobbly tripod and hit the road and do some. Interviews as I go along, and people say, the camera shakes a little. Well, that's kind of the in thing these days, actually.
No, lens flare. You got.
Well, that's J.J. Abrams with the lens flare.
But we have one interview with Tom Dongo, who has lives down in Sedona, Arizona, and he has an amazing collection of photographs that he and others have taken of mysterious objects, some of which are very spectacular and some of which may be just, dust on the lens or something like that. But there is a place down there known as the Bradshaw Ranch, which is very similar to the Skinwalker Ranch.
Right.
And so we did this. We hit the road with Tom and went up into the mountains and showed us where there had been UFO sightings and talked about a lot of different things that had happened there, and it's a great interview. And we've done that. We've got Ted Phillips on YouTube. It's very rare to see Ted, on a video. There's a few, but not very many. And so I've taken this. People think, I'm very sensationalistic, but I do take this seriously. But maybe that sensationalism has rubbed off from my working for the Inquirer over all those years, And I used to be hired by magazines just to write the cover blurbs, and that's still the best thing that I do is titles and blurbs and captions. You could make a whole career on that, except that the magazines don't exist. The magazines don't exist anymore.
That's true too. Yeah. How much of and let's jump topics here for a second. Yeah. How much do you think the problem with society's acceptance of the whole UFO phenomenon has to do with the fact that it spent so many years in tabloids like the Inquirer and
I don't think it matters one way or the other. And in fact, there are some people who say, people like the contactees and all, they made the whole subject into a joke, and because of that, scientists and the academic won't take it seriously. Has very little to do with it. Science and academic want nothing to do with this anyway. They want nothing to do with the paranormal. It wouldn't matter whether George Adamski ever existed or not. They just don't want anything that's going to rock the boat, I mean, SETI wants to get its funding so they can send signals into outer space and listen to radio waves and all. And UFOs aren't communicating with us in that fashion. I don't think they listen to the radio. They may listen to this show because I'm on, but normally I don't think they're setting up there monitoring the latest programs in their spaceships, because they're not spaceships. See, this is one of the things. Like I said, when I first started in this, the newsletter was called the Interplanetary News Service Report. Mm-hmm. I no longer think that the vast majority of unidentified flying, sometimes they're not even flying, as we know, objects are from outer space. I think this is more of a paranormal, earthbound phenomenon.
Now, are you talking about the inner Earth theory of the hollow Earth phenomenon?
I knew Richard Shaver.
Okay.
And I have probably now our company, the Inner Light Global Communications. We have about 200 books in print, and we cover everything. And people say, "Oh, do you believe in all of this?" No, I'm a publisher. I don't necessarily have to believe in everything that I publish. I publish things. I publish books for various reasons, because I think it has some of the material. I was the first publisher to print a book on Bentwaters on Rendlesham Forest. It was by Jenny Randalls. It was called From Out of the Blue, and it was also published. We sold the rights to Berkeley paperbacks, and that was the first book ever published on the subject here in the United States. So some books we publish because they are serious and well researched. Other books we publish because we think that there might be a market for it, and other people may be interested in reading it and learning from it. It's not.
Have you ever published a book, though, that you looked at and you're like, "Ah, man, this is complete bogus"?
Or, oops, I changed my mind. Maybe I should.
Yeah. Even better question: have you had a book that you thought of that and you're like, I can't publish this, and you've turned them away?
Yes, but not because I thought it was bogus. Because I didn't feel that it was for our audience. And you know something, though, the people who wrote the book, actually Mike Mott was one of them. I told him, I said, "It's a great book, but it's a little bit too maybe academic or something for our, maybe that's not the right word, but it wasn't for our audience, but he put it out and he did very well with it. And we've had a couple other authors. I sent them to other publishers, and I knew the book was the first book on Rendell Chateau. The author came to me, and I don't remember his name. We had lunch together, and he showed me the manuscript and explained it to me, and I said, not for me, but call Weiser Publishing, and they put it out. You know, I've always known pretty much. I can feel if I open if I look at a manuscript, I can tell in 5 minutes whether it's for me. And I've had authors say, "Well, you didn't read the entire manuscript because I turned the page upside down in the middle of the book, and it was that way when you sent the manuscript back."
Yeah, but with your experience, I could completely see how that could happen.
It's not that it would have been a bad book. It just wasn't something that I could get behind. See.
But you've never had that book there. It's just it's so bad, and it's so full of BS that you couldn't publish it. Has that ever happened?
You're talking about somebody like Billy Meyer? No, that was never happened.
Hey, he said names, not us.
No.
The one-armed bandit.
Well, I don't like Billy Meyer because the fellow who promotes him here insists on sending out chain letters to everybody.
Yes,
telling them to stop.
And I got another one from him. Tim,
and then everybody that replies wants you to see what they have to say.
My goodness, look, I'm part of this mailing list, and I know you know all about it, Tim.
Yeah, it's on it. Yeah. I think I saw
Victor.
Yeah.
Victor, the Sky Wizard, whatever his name is.
I don't know. Yeah. Whoever sends it, I don't even know who sends it out. It just somebody feels like sending it, and they'll add another 100 names to it or something. I don't know.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is, any time that anybody even mentions Billy Myers, this American representative of his,
Michael Horn or whatever. Yeah,
that guy, that guy, that gentleman, he replies back with nothing but the most outrageous, grossest slander that you're going to hear. All you got to say is just one thing, like, "Hey, I don't believe Billy Myers." That's all you got to say. That's all, and he'll go off on you like.
I've had that. I've had death threats made against me. I've had just about everything.
I believe it.
Yeah. You name it. I've had it. Cursed upon me over 50 years. It doesn't bother me anymore. I've put out low budget horror movies. I've gotten good reviews. I've gotten bad reviews. I've published 200 books. Some people think they're great and admire the work that I do, and other people have less than anything complimentary to. I'm
afraid to ask what kind of low budget horror movies.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. We have done. One movie that we did was called Sandy Hook Lingerie Party Massacre. Now,
that can't be good.
Okay. Well, this was made 10 years before.
Wait a minute. Hang on. When was this made?
About 9 or 10 years ago.
Okay. You didn't happen to have an actress named Tiffany Shepis in that, did you?
I don't think so.
Uh-oh.
Okay. No, I just happen to know her, and she's a scream queen, and she did a whole slew of B-movie stuff. So.
Anyway, we had to change the title recently because of the unfortunate, incident at Sandy Hook. But that was Connecticut. Our Sandy Hook was New Jersey. I actually looked this up on the internet. There are 7 Sandy Hooks in North America, and for some reason, Alex Jones posted something to the effect that I had something to do, or there was a secret code in my movie, or something like that. And so the distributor insisted that the title be changed. Now it's called Jersey Shore Lingerie Party Massacre.
You know what's crazy?
I hope Snooki gets killed. Please.
No, Snooki was not in it, But now there is another movie with a similar title, which can't copyright a title and, whatever it is. Then we did a film we actually shot partly in Costa Rica. And, I always try to add a little bit something about that was skin-eating jungle vampires. I always throw in a little bit about the paranormal or a UFO. That particular movie starts out with a UFO crashing into the volcano. And it turns out that volcano, Arenal Volcano in Costa Rica, they've had a lot of UFO sightings around there for years.
Mm.
And, of course, UFO sightings around volcanoes have become fairly common. I mean,
Costa Rica, don't they also have a huge amount of reports on the chupacabra?
I don't think so much in Costa Rica.
Puerto Rico, I know, has a lot of reports.
Yes. Costa Rica is Central America. I don't remember hearing too many stories about the chupacabra down there. They do have all other forms of peculiar phenomena taking place.
All other forms of chupas and cabras. Going back to the Sandy Hook thing real quick.
Yes.
That even in the Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, there's a scene they're looking at a map in the movie, and it actually is
I know.
mentioned
That's how somehow my movie got involved in this. And this is
no kidding.
And I'm very much into synchronicities and coincidences. In fact, I believe that's one way that the UFOs and spirits, whatever you want to call them, are trying to communicate with us. In other words, we're looking for signals from outer space, and other ways of communicating, and they're doing it more abstract because they are different types of entities. I mean, they're not physical beings like we are. They're more of a paranormal nature. That's the best way I can describe it. I couldn't tell you what substance they are made up of, but they're able to come and go through window areas and vortexes and so forth. So
I was thinking more of like along the lines of it's more like a glitch in the Matrix when stuff like this happens.
Could be. Well, I don't claim that I have that I can explain all of this. So all I know is that the actual physical hardware that we're looking for, I don't think it's very rare. I mean, Roswell. People say, well, what do you think about Roswell? I don't believe it was an extraterrestrial craft. It just so happens that a lot of the sightings that took place in the late 1940s were in New Mexico, where, of course, all these German and Nazi scientists were brought over, as part of Project Paperclip. Yep. And I think that they are responsible, this technology. The government would rather have you believe that UFOs, if you have to believe anything, they would rather have you believe that UFOs are from outer space than think that it's some earthly phenomena.
So you would say then you do believe that Roswell was a Nazi crash? Nazi spaceship.
That seems to be a good explanation as far as I'm concerned. Also, too, now take into consideration the early contactees like Adamski and all. Who did they describe as seeing as tall, blondes and blue eyes,
right,
in the whole bit? And in some of the cases, actually, the pilots of the craft spoke with a German accent. There was a case in I think it's 1951 or 52. A fellow by the name of Reinhold Schmidt. He was a grain buyer in Nebraska, and he was on his way home one night, and this craft landed on the side of the road, and he went inside and conversed. You could find, I think, the actual radio interview with him. It was pretty spectacular at the time because his was one of the first cases of an actual face-to-face contact with one of these beings. But they spoke in a German.
Is this pre-Betty? Is this before Betty and Barney Hill, or?
Oh,
after?
yes. This was like 1952 or so.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Now, Barney, of course, Betty and Barney Hill was probably the first abduction experience as far as we think of abductions today. Most of the cases before that were of human-looking beings, those that could easily pass,
Well, you had what was the guy from Venus that was really famous? Supposedly, man, I forgot his name.
Orthon, man.
Was it a Val or something like that?
Oh, Val Thor.
Val Thor.
Well, no, actually, Frank Stranges, who passed away about 3 or 4 years ago, was a good friend of mine. He claims that he actually met this man from another planet who looked he looked like a soap opera star. I've seen what purports to be photographs of him. They've been published in books, including Dr. Strange's books. And he claims he actually met him inside the Pentagon.
No kidding.
And you know something? One could actually be very skeptical about this story, and I certainly was. Even I liked Frank. He was a very nice man. He always emceed the UFO conferences that I put on, and he was a great platform speaker. He was a minister. He had a church in Van Nuys, California, but he was one of the few ministers who would bring in UFOs and talk about Val Thor, this peaceful being from another planet and so forth and so on. Now, over the years, I met Frank's brother. His brother, I think his name was David Stranges, was a minister as well, but more of a fundamentalist, like hellfire and brimstone type of guy. I had a public relations company. I had people like Peter Max and Les Paul as clients, and I had a couple of fundamentalist ministers who kind of toured and did their own tent shows and all, and one of them was Frank Strange's brother. And one time after one of the services, I was backstage with him, and we got to talking about Frank and about his UFO experience, and his brother David says to me, my brother Frank would be much more successful at this if he just wouldn't mention that Val Thor and that UFO stuff. And, I said to myself, he's absolutely right. Frank insisted on talking about the, UFOs and Val Thor from the planet Venus when he could have just done the regular, fundamentalist shtick and probably gotten a lot more followers than he had. So it's up in the air. I can't say that I totally believe the story, but I think there's a good possibility that he did meet somebody who claimed or purported to be from somewhere else.
Right. He could have met somebody who told him they were from Venus.
Well, he did.
They actually were,
Okay, well, he supposedly had no fingerprints.
Okay.
He had a space suit with him that could not be cut or torn or burned. This is kind of...
Which correlates to the Roswell ship material?
It does, but of course that was the same thing, I think, in the day the Earth stood still. So
right.
It's nothing... In fact, if you ask me, and I know these guys have done a tremendous research on Roswell, and I mean, I can't say that I have my own explanation for it, but they've certainly done a very good research with it. But to me, I'd need a lot more proof to say, well, this is an extraterrestrial. And when you consider the object itself, it doesn't seem like it was, it was very lightweight and almost like this tin foil that, it folded out and then you could mesh it back down again. How could you fly from another planet in that? It doesn't have any rhyme or reason to me. I don't know.
Well, do you believe when Jesse Marcel came forward in the 70s and...
I know Jesse Marcel Jr., yeah. I met him, of course. And
of course, he's passed away, but...
Yes.
Do you believe what he said that the material was switched and what the famous picture of him holding the material was not the real material?
This is another thing. I have thought that perhaps some of the people in the military would say that something like this was extraterrestrial because again they didn't want to give out the information that these craft might have been developed by some Nazi scientists.
Right.
It kind of looks bad. You know what I'm saying? The fact that
it does. Yeah.
Here we we liberated England and Germany and everything, and we brought all these scientists over who were working for the Nazis and were Nazis themselves. I mean, it looks bad on your scorecard. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of the people in the UFO field at that time, including Major Kehoe and his NICAP organization, they would rather, again, have you believe that they were extraterrestrial if you were going to believe in UFOs at all.
No, what about the reports that there was more than one crash at Roswell? There wasn't just one ship.
I wasn't there. But now you know who tells you know who tells a much more interesting story. Actually, I had him on the Outer Edge. About 6 months ago? A fellow who lives in Kingman, Arizona, who's a local historian by the name of Harry Drew.
Okay.
Now, in 1953, there were several UFO incidences there. We call them UFO crashes, but Harry says that they didn't really crash; they actually land, and there were extraterrestrials involved. Again, human-looking, beings, not little men or anything like that. They weren't like the Roswell, little grays or something like that. They were human beings. And he actually says that he has found 12 or 15 witnesses who verify the story. And he tells a very believable history. He's a historian. He tells a very incredible story, but he tells it very well, and it seems to be very well documented. So obviously Roswell was not the only UFO crash. In fact, I did a book that's still in print on UFO crash secrets.
There's been like hundreds of UFOs.
Hundreds,
UFO crashes.
Man. How can that many? It boggles the mind when you think about how many supposed UFO crashes there have been, and not only here in the United States, but just about every country
worldwide.
that you can think of. Right? I don't know. England and Belgium and Russia. We used to publish a lot of our articles in our magazine. We had a UFO Universe, which I edited for 11 years before the publishing company went out of business. They had 40 different magazines, some of which were doing very, very well. And the UFO Universe, we had specials and everything like that. It was on the newsstands, sold all over the world. And all of a sudden, the bottom fell out of the publishing business, and all the magazines went out of business. I mean,
thanks to the internet.
But you can't sell them on the internet. I mean, I can't read anything on a tablet. I mean, I find it very difficult to read a magazine.
Oh, get yourself a Kindle Fire. You'll be okay.
I got a Kindle.
Oh, you do?
I got it right here at my feet. It's right here. Yeah.
I like obviously you can't read it.
That's true. That's an excellent point by Alan.
I only have 3 or 4 hands, so I'm talking on the phone.
Oh my God! Is it Vishnu or Shiva that has all the hands?
This is how he got the name Mr. UFO. Dun dun dun. Now here's a question for you, Tim, and this is something that I've actually researched a little bit into the whole Nazi UFO stuff. So it always, fascinates me when somebody says that they believe that was what crashed at Roswell. But here's a question that I ask a lot of folks who believe that this could have been what happened at Roswell. There's a belief system with the whole Nazis that Hitler got away. What are the chances that they did perfect some kind of alien spaceship technology and he did get away, and the Nazis got away in these ships and have been doing some dastardly deeds behind the scenes for the last 50 years? What are the chances of that? Because a lot of folks believe that they did go to the North Pole and went somewhere into the inner Earth.
Absolutely. We've published Tim Schwartz, and I published his books on Adelbert's journey beyond the poles and so forth. I don't know. I believe in these incidences where strange things have taken place in the caves. I don't know. I don't know if I can buy the Hollow Earth theory, but it's a possibility. There are stories that have been told by explorers that have gone up into that part of Antarctica where they claim that there is a vast
opening of some sort.
Well, not even an opening, but a vast area where there's no ice flow, where there seem to be a flocks of birds and things that you would not expect to see in a place where the temperature must be about 40 degrees below zero or something like that.
Right. Look, even if there isn't a hollow Earth, though, I do believe that a lot of alien UFOs are coming in from under the sea. I think there definitely is bases under the sea, deep under the ocean.
But there is a possible ET connection, even when you consider the Nazi theory, because back in the 1920s there was a group, the Vril Society, and they met. They consisted of, I think, 9 women who were mediums. And they would have mediumistic sessions, seances. So that's the word I'm looking for. And they channeled beings from some other place, and they did automatic writing. Now, I've seen what purports to be diagrams that they've done of these craft from whatever galaxy or solar system that they were in contact with. They look remarkably like the craft that George Adamski claims that he wrote in. And of course George Adamski had this meeting with this so-called Venusian Orthon, who again was blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and I don't know, it just seems that it all kind of can point in that direction. But again, with UFOs, it's mostly all speculation. I've been doing this for 50 years, and people say, "What do you know about UFOs?" And all I can tell you is that UFOs are a legitimate phenomena, and they deserve to be investigated. But where do we go from there? Ted Phillips is a good friend of mine, and Phil Brognell, who's been a little bit discredited because he gave out some credentials which were not legitimate. But both were assistants of Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And even Dr. J. Allen Hynek and Ted Phillips and Phil Brognell, they started out as what we call nuts and bolts men. Like, Stanton Friedman, these have to be physical objects that travel here from some other solar system and they land and leave indentions. Well, neither of these three gentlemen, Dr. Hynek, of course, has passed on, but Ted Phillips and Phil Brognell, they have long since given up on the interplanetary theory as well. They now believe it is a paranormal phenomena. And I always say what happens in a haunted house and in a seance is pretty much the same thing that happens at a UFO landing spot. It's very hard to tell the difference, actually. Now, there are some cases, of course, where pilots follow these things and they're picked up on radar, but there's also a lot of cases where people see UFOs and they transform into different shapes right in front of them, including sightings by pilots. And sometimes they're not picked up on radar. So,
what do you make of crop circles? I mean, dealing with the whole UFO phenomenon. Crop circles, some of them have been proven to be fake, but some of them have radiation, all kinds of things that emit from them. See, I'm not sure that even a fake incident doesn't have some merit to it. Because I believe that the intelligence behind this
they want people to realize their existence. See, I mean, if they wanted to overtly land and contact us and land on the White House lawn or something, they could have done that a long time ago. Obviously, they're either not able to do that or don't want to, interfere with our culture and so forth. But I think that they have other ways of communicating. They can't communicate with us, so they take many different forms, and they appear in many different ways, and they communicate by crop circles and coincidences and synchronicities, and they may not even care, or it may not even matter whether the incident is actually true in the sense of the word that we think it's legitimate or a physical phenomena.
See, I equate the whole alien speaking to human phenomenon kind of like us speaking to our animals, to our dogs, or other species that have some kind of intelligence that don't speak our language or can't communicate with us in English or in Spanish or whatever your language is. That's kind of like the way I equate aliens trying to speak to us. But the way I talk to my dog when he's outside and I'm just looking at him, I wave my hands at him. I yell like he's a pup. But the point is I speak to him directly. You know what I mean? And that's my issue with aliens, with this whole vague stuff. It's time for them to just come down, open up the UFO, and draw me a sign. Play some music. Do something mathematically that we can communicate with. This whole vague stuff. Crop circles here. A UFO showing up on radar here. I mean, it's so vague. It's silly.
Well, yes, it absolutely is, and it's open to personal interpretation. And
my thing is, though, Tim, if they're coming in from like light years away, why would they spend that much time?
But yeah, they're not coming in from light years away. That's the whole point. They may not even realize that they're able to come back and forth like that. It could be we have people disappear from here. I mean, they walk down the street and never seen again. Where are they going? And this seems to be a random thing. Well, you take John Keel, who was a good friend of mine. He'd go and set up on a hilltop somewhere and watch these objects come in. Well, Pine Bush, New York is a good example. For about 5 or 6 years there, they were coming on a regular basis. People went down and took photographs and watched these things come over pretty much every night. And then they kind of lost interest, or the objects went away. But they'll probably be back again because the sightings there and in other places go back hundreds of years. I mean, right. So it seems that there are certain places where you stand a better chance of being part of this phenomena. I mean,
Arizona is one of those places, by the way. And look, speaking of white Nordic aliens, Travis Walton. In his in the book, he explains what happened to him, and it's completely different from the movie. He saw these white aliens, yes. These tall aliens. I wouldn't describe them as giants because they weren't much taller. They were a little bit taller, but not much. But definitely Nordic-looking, white, blonde, blue eyes. That does seem to be kind of the norm.
Well,
with a lot of these cases.
You mentioned the tall whites. Now, I've heard some people describe that on the air, and I always thought, well, that sounds a little fanciful. Anybody can come up with a yarn and write a book. And some people easier than others. I mean, I used to I was probably the first to put together UFO expos and conferences in Phoenix and in San Diego and Colorado Springs and so forth. And, we had a variety of speakers. We had every program you'd have 35, 40 speakers. And some people could just some people had to read from notes, and other people could just get up there and wing it. And it seemed like every time I heard them, the story got a little bit more further out and more fancy.
Everybody embellishes as it goes on.
That's how it normally works, though. That's how it happens. That's what I'm telling you. Exodus, they were just crossing a puddle, and next thing you know, it's the Red
next
Sea.
thing it's the Red Sea or something.
Yeah, they're parting the Red Sea.
But anyway, getting back just for a minute to the tall whites. I have a friend of mine. She's my hairdresser, Carla. She has a shop in Jersey City called Balance, and it's all kind of like a UFO oriented. When you go in there, you got an alien in the window and spaceships and stuff. Nice. In fact, Higgins. Oh God, I can't remember his first name. This fellow who claims that he's had relationships with space women. All his original paintings are hanging on her wall. So she's kind of into this, but not as much as I am or anything like that. Anyway, she had this shop, and she was there alone one day. And she said this guy came in, and there was just something very unusual about him. She said he was seemed to be 6'8" or something like that, and he had very white hair and had kind of almost albino skin or something, and she tried to talk to him, but he didn't seem to know where he was or what he was doing there. And so I described to her and told her about these tall whites, and she said, "Wow, that sounds exactly like this guy that came into her salon."
Did she say that he was dressed like in weird clothing, or was he dressed like normal?
No, I don't remember, but I don't think so.
I'm sorry, I got to interject here. Has anybody read anything recently about the Smithsonian actually admitting in court that they destroyed a whole bunch of skeletons that were in excess of 8 feet tall?
I read that. So I read that recently.
Yeah.
I know where I read it. I read it in a book.
No. This was all over the news, actually.
Yeah. It was. Yes. Uh-huh.
But here's the thing.
Nordics.
But here's the thing. Tall human beings. Skeletal remains of human beings that are 8 feet. Yes, here's the thing. We have 7-footers in the NBA right now, Alan, and it's not that far of a stretch to say somebody could be 8 to 12 feet tall. And we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of skeletal remains. We're talking maybe a few over a course of how many hundreds of thousands of years.
Well, they're saying that Smithsonian's admitting to destroying.
I don't think they have. I don't think they have admitted to it. That from what I've read.
I'll send you the link if you want.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Came out. There was a court case where an organization sued for the records, and it turns out it happened.
Tim, wouldn't it be a crazy thing when we find out that white people came from another world and Hispanics or Spanish people or came from another world and blacks came from another world and Asians from another world, and we all just ended up here together.
When I was a kid, the first magazine I ever bought that had UFOs in it was a magazine that cost $0.25. I believe it was called True Space Secrets, and I have it I found the copy on eBay recently, and I have it in my drawer here collecting dust. But there was an article in there about how the Japanese settled here from some other planet. And of course, I mean, the articles in there seemed a little bit preposterous in those days. But today, we've kind of heard it all, in the UFO field. So
makes sense to me. I mean, Jesus is buried in Japan, and he was an alien.
Could be. Oh, I thought India.
No. Actually, Google this. I'm not even kidding. There's a burial in Japan.
Yeah.
They claim is the burial of Jesus.
That's correct. But also in India.
Well, I don't know. Is there a burial in India for Jesus?
There is. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I know about the one.
Well, I know
Japan,
my friend Paul Davids, who did the Roswell. Speaking of Roswell, the Roswell movie for Showtime, he has a DVD that he produced about Jesus in India.
Oh, wow, really? What are your thoughts of Jesus? Because a lot of folks believe that Jesus was an alien. Do you think that there's any chance of that, or do you think he was just the world's first big religious con artist?
Well, back when Jesus lived, there were many who claimed that they were the Messiah.
Right.
I mean, Jesus was not the only individual who claimed the Messiah that was walking around at that time. Yeah. So, are you asking me, did he perform the miracles that he supposedly did, and did he?
Well, do you think he was an alien? Because a lot of people believe that in ufology. Oh, that Jesus was some kind of an alien.
I don't know.
That's how he walked on water.
I can't. It's not something that I think about every day. Now, my friend Professor G.C. Shellhorn has written a book on the Bible and UFOs, and we've even published a couple of things along that line. But it's not a topic that I get too deeply into myself. If some of those things that happened in the Bible did happen, well, then they could be extraterrestrial. Or I don't even call them extraterrestrials. I call them ultra-terrestrials, because I say we don't know where they come from or the reason that they're here. We have these people that are calling for disclosure. Yes. And I kind of laugh at that, because you can't get the government to disclose anything to us, and never mind about UFOs. And what is the president going to do? Go on TV at 6:00 and say, what's the best he could do? He could say, yeah, there's a phenomena here, we can't explain it. Go out and buy a few books and come up with your own decision on it. That would be the most honest answer, I think.
Props to Steve Bassett, who is one of the front runners in this whole disclosure movement.
Oh yes,
great guy. I love Steve Bassett. He's on the show a lot with us.
Yes.
And what he does is just phenomenal work in this field. But here's the thing: I am 100% with you. I don't think that he is ever, or I am going to ever see disclosure the way he wants it, which is the government just coming out and say, "Hey, aliens are real, and this is what we know. This is what it is, and we've been lying to you for 100 years,
never.
All these years."
And also,
it's never going to happen.
No, and also too, and I said this years and decades ago, before there was anybody pushing disclosure. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I back all these people. No matter what they do, the more information that gets to the public's attention about this is fine. But the government is never going to admit that this is true.
Why would they? At this point, why would they?
Why would they?
Yeah.
The only one in the so-called disclosure arena that I really am impressed by is Grant Cameron.
Yes.
I think he's got some valid theories now. He's talking about again. He's another one that's kind of went from nuts and bolts to the paranormal. He says now it's all a matter of ESP. If you want to know how these ships operate, it's ESP, and also too he believes that they are channeling through a lot of rock musicians and entertainers. So
that's a little far-fetched even for me.
I called Bat Squatch.
Oh,
I'm with Alan on this one.
You got to have him on. In fact, I plan to have him on.
You got to suspend your disbelief like a comic book movie on this one.
Well, I think he makes it. See, that's more along the lines that I believe is that this is if they're doing anything like this, it's a very subtle type of thing. It's
I'm still in the nuts and
subtle. Sorry,
I'm still in the nuts and bolts phase. I still believe that there are nuts and bolts aliens are just coming down to Earth, but I don't think they're coming down as rapidly or as frequently as people believe. I don't think that as many people are getting abducted or having these close encounter experiences.
Okay, why do almost all the ships look different? Why do very seldom any two aliens ever look the same?
Hold on. Why do we have about 50 different car brands just here in this country alone? I mean, from Toyota to Honda
why would they?
Mazda.
First of all, would all 50 car brands or UFOs be able to travel here? It just doesn't make sense. Where do they go?
You can get in any sedan and travel all over the United States. They
come here to contact you, like on your way home, and then
no, but aliens. If and we're going to do this eventually, Tim, and you got to understand this is something that we're going to one day prove to be a norm. If you're a civilization on a planet that is experiencing the step into the first category, as Michio Kaku would say, stage 1 civilization, and you're learning about interstellar travel and you're finding other worlds that are habitable, what is the first thing you're going to do? You're going to study that planet before you go down there and commingle with a society.
Yes,
you're going to study them from afar.
They've been studying the planet for thousands of years.
Yeah, but that's human years. But to them, a human year might be nothing. You know what I mean? You're looking at it relatively. You're looking at it as a human being.
You're conjecturing. There's no actual evidence of that. We do know that someone or something has been coming here. The ancients, etched them on the walls of their homes in the caves, and the Egyptians, put them in their writings and so forth, and the Greeks had them as the gods from Mount Olympus. They've been here since the beginning of time. Doesn't it seem more reasonable that they have been here because they are here?
Oh no, I'm with you. I think they've been around for a long time. In fact, one of the things that got me into dealing with this a little bit more on a different level than nuts and bolts was the stuff that I saw from Commander X, which I know you're familiar with.
Yes.
Commander X Conspiracy Journal. Look, the stuff that he was saying, or the Commander X was saying, because I know there's more than one person who was Commander X, but the stuff that was coming forward with the whole dinosaurs possibly being the source of a lot of these UFOs, and I'm talking about like intelligent dinosaurs that left the planet, and now we call them reptilians, right, folks? That's what a lot of people believe are coming out, are here, or believe the aliens are reptilians, right? Commander X theory was that the dinosaurs left when the big shebang happened. The comet hit the Earth and it wiped out civilization. The intelligent ones built some kind of a ship, left Earth, came back millions of years later, or whatever, how many years later, found the planet full of monkeys running around, and they're like, well, what the hell's going on here now? And they've kind of been interacting with us, sort of, and guiding our evolution for the last who knows how many hundreds of thousands of years. That's a possibility. I mean, that's an interesting theory, if anything.
Well, there's no doubt that something besides our own species has existed or coincided along with us on this planet
Oh, I agree. 4.5 billion years of evolution.
Whether they have been here all this time and they are invisible to us, or whether they have come and gone, again, is just something we could speculate upon.
Definitely. Tim, we're almost out of time here. We're actually going to hit our last break here, and we're going to let you go for the evening. I want to give you a chance to give everybody your website addresses and a way to find you, find your work. Keep on, researching what you're doing, and
thank you.
Follow along.
And don't forget, once a month, the second Sunday of every month, I am the co-host of the Outer Edge Radio, which is on your network. PSN, and coming up next month, we have Bigfoot, the Bigfoot Chick. She runs a organization investigating
works for me.
Bigfoot. Huh?
That works for me. The Bigfoot Chick.
Basically, she's a really hot girl that forgets to shave.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think she's forgotten to shave. But anyway, that's our next guest. What I suggest to people, if you want to find out about our books, and we have about 200 titles. You can go to Amazon.com and type in Timothy Beckley. That's Beckley, and all our beautiful book covers that are done by Bill Kern and Tim Schwartz. A lot of them will pop up. Or you could type in Inner Light Global Communications and get the same results. We have a lot of books on UFOs, but we have also a lot of books on spell casting and on giants. We have a very good book on. We have everything. If you have any interest at all in the paranormal, just go to Amazon and type in Timothy Beckley. And if you want to get on our newsletter list on your website, just hit the Conspiracy Journal link there, and Tim Schwartz and I will sign you up. I do the physical publication that we mail out to our subscribers, and they're not paid. It's free. We put it out maybe 3 times a year. It's a catalog and some interviews and things. And then, of course, Tim Schwartz does the weekly version online, which has some great stories.
Yes, it does.
That you won't find anywhere else. So, I'm easy to find. If you type, and our YouTube channel is Mr. UFO's Secret Files, and we got about a dozen or 15 interviews up there. Ted Phillips, Tom Dongo, George Hansen. We're active. I mean, I've been doing this for 50 years. I'm not about to give it up now, no matter where the truth may lead me.
There you go. Timothy Beckley, you're awesome. Hopefully we can have you back on many more times in 2015. Love having you on the show, my friend.
Maybe we'll be putting together a show of our own.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Dun. Inquiring minds out there listening, just keep on focusing on what we're doing, and you'll find out more info on that pretty soon.
You bet. Take care,
Tim,
and have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for talking with us.
And happy Festivus.